For decades, stories have circulated claiming that Soviet soldiers committed mass atrocities against German women at the end of World War II. Some blame liberals or anti-Stalinists for creating the myth, while others point to Western propaganda. Yet few know that one of the main figures who unintentionally fueled this legend was not a Western journalist, but a Soviet officer, a devoted Stalinist, and veteran of the Great Patriotic War, Vladimir Natanovich Gelfand. Gelfand's wartime diary, published in Russian, German, and Swedish, has been cited repeatedly by Western media as supposed evidence of mass violence by the Red Army in Germany. His writings are raw, emotional, and uncensored, a true record of the soldier's life and mindset during the war. But they also reflect his deep ideological devotion to Stalin, which shines through in many of his entries. Who was Vladimir Gelfand? In 1942, Gelfand was sent to the front as a mortar squad commander. After surviving the encirclement near Kharkov, he joined the 62nd Army and fought at Stalingrad. Later, he became a political officer and a passionate believer in Stalin's cause. His diary is full of heartfelt admiration for the Soviet leader, and yet it's also a revealing document about the moral complexity of war. The female battalion story. Among the more controversial parts of his diary are mentions of supposed German female battalions. One entry reads, "2 days ago, a female battalion fought on our left flank. They were crushed, and the captured German women declared themselves avengers for their fallen husbands." Gelfand then adds that some soldiers proposed executing the women, showing little sympathy. But historically, no combat female battalions existed in the German army. Women did serve as clerks, telephone operators, and in anti-aircraft units, but not as frontline fighters. Another entry comes not from Gelfand's own experience, but from a story told by Sergeant Andreev. He claimed that in March 1945, near the town of Bernlicht, Soviet troops faced a group of armed German women who attacked in formation. After their defeat, the captured women were allegedly divided into groups, and some were taken away by soldiers. However, Gelfand did not witness any of this himself. He only wrote down what Andreev told him. Most likely, this was a wartime rumor or an exaggerated tale, a kind of frontline folklore that often spread among soldiers. Fact or fiction? Modern historians agree that no full-scale female combat battalions ever existed in the Wehrmacht. At most, a few women took part in local defense units during the final chaos of the war. Therefore, stories of entire female platoons being captured are almost certainly fabrications. Gelfand also described how Andreev allegedly chose one young German girl from among the prisoners and forced her into submission with a pistol. Western media later cited this passage as proof of Soviet brutality. But again, this was not Gelfand's first-hand account, merely a retelling of another soldier's words. What official records show? While some crimes did occur, the Soviet command strictly forbade any violence against civilians. Stalin's Order Number 229 stated clearly, "Officers and Red Army soldiers, you are entering enemy territory. Maintain discipline and self-control. The local population, whether German, Czech, or Polish, must not be subjected to violence. Offenders will be punished by military law, up to execution." Archival documents confirmed this was not mere rhetoric. Military prosecutors regularly investigated and punished such crimes. For example, a report from the First Belarusian Front, April 1945, recorded 72 cases of rape in 2 weeks, across 7 armies numbering over 1 million men. According to historian Oleg Rzhevsky of the Russian Academy of Sciences,
4,148 officers and soldiers were convicted by military tribunals for crimes against civilians, including theft, murder, and assault.
The 2 million raped German women myth. The famous claim of 2 million raped German women originated from German researcher Barbara Johr, who counted all children born to Soviet fathers in post-war Berlin, then multiplied that number several times over, assuming that most rapes didn't result in pregnancy. Her estimate, however, has no documentary foundation and has been repeatedly criticized as pseudo-statistical fiction. In reality, many relationships between Soviet soldiers and German women were consensual. In a shattered and starving country, women often sought protection, food, and warmth from the occupying troops. Some of these relationships even grew into genuine affection and marriage. To classify all of them as violence is a gross distortion of history.
Final assessment. Yes, crimes did occur, as they do in any war. Some were horrifying, but they were not widespread, and Soviet military courts actively prosecuted offenders, often by firing squad. The myth of 2 million victims is an inflated legend built on unreliable sources and emotional exaggerations. Stories like Gelfand's, or rather, Andreev's stories recorded by Gelfand, became the seeds of modern myths. They spread easily because emotion travels faster than evidence. But history must rest on documents, not on campfire tales or propaganda pamphlets.